Brothers and sisters, today is a great feast of the visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary to her cousin Elizabeth. You know, when Mary had this incredible encounter with the angel Gabriel, which I don't think we could truly grasp what that was like, for such a powerful archangel to appear to Mary and to give her such news, and you know what was happening in Mary's soul and heart at that time. But it must have been just for her own very human level when the angel Gabriel also prophesied to her that her cousin Elizabeth, who was barren for many years and old in age, was also conceived the great prophet John the Baptist, who's considered, really probably after Our Lady, the greatest saint in the church. Jesus himself said, "No one born of a woman was greater than John the Baptist." And so both himself and Our Lady Mary had similar vocations in different ways. You know, both were necessary. Put it this way, God had chosen them to be necessary for the way he would operate his salvation. You know, John would prepare his people in advance to slowly waken up their minds and hearts to the coming of the Messiah, so that when he came, that they would already have had some kind of mental preparation, that they would not have missed him. And of course, Our Lady's yes prepares the whole thing. Her yes allows John allows the Lord to have a body. Through her human yes, the Messiah, God, would take on human flesh in Mary's womb. And just on the human level, it is truly amazing that when Mary got there to Ankarim, which is where Elizabeth was living and is where the visitation took place, this great encounter, this powerful mystery in the life of the church, event in salvation history. And when Mary went there, she found it was what the angel said. You could imagine then just Our Lady thinking that, wow, she had already believed. You know, Mary did believe in the apparition. She believed that this was the angel Gabriel. She believed, she had faith, and she had faith that what had taken place in her. But just on the human level, she would have had a confirmation, that she didn't dream any of this. This was real, because exactly what the angel Gabriel said to her when she went to Ankarim, she found her cousin pregnant and with child. And so that must have been just a powerful confirmation, or even for us as we read the scriptures, and if we believe these things actually happened, then there you go. How do you explain that? But even in our own human experience, we could relate it maybe to more recent apparitions of Our Lady, where Our Lady has given tasks to the visionaries to perform, and when they followed the task, it was as she said and as she proclaimed. I think of someone that I met in Medjugorje, for example, a young man who was in a wheelchair for a very long time, and during one of the apparitions, the visionary saw Our Lady going over to him, and she asked, "Well, what are you doing, Our Lady?" The visionary asked, and Our Lady said, "It's his birthday and I have a gift for him." And the very next day, he walked out of his wheelchair. He was healed, and I met him. So praise and honor and glory to God. And so how do we explain these things? If it's just some mental vision, or is it some conjurement of the mind? No, it's not. It's real. It's reality. And so the visitation is this proof. This side of the visitation is this proof that God is at work for Mary, that he's alive in her life, that he has a plan, and that he's foreseeing the events, that God is in control, that God is planning, he's preparing, he's moving in time and history. And today he does the same. He's moving in time and history through our brokenness, through our trials, through our sufferings. God is moving. God is not dead. But often we are confounded, of course, by the great tragedies of life, because we don't understand. We only see it from a very tiny earthly perspective, but we don't look from the perspective of eternity, what God is preparing for those who love him for all eternity. For us it's huge, but for God, well, compared to what we get to enjoy to be with him. So if the crosses and the sufferings come our way that prepare us to be with him in an ever greater way, then of course that's a much greater good, and that's what God is always going to will. Saint Charles de Foucault loved this mystery of the visitation because he saw in it his own spirituality of after many years of adoring alone as a hermit Christ in the Eucharist, God started to expand his vision and started to see that in fact, that, really appreciate that deep truth of our faith, that every Christian in a state of grace, baptized into the body, the death and resurrection of Christ, shares in his glory and carries a special presence in this world. And so the visitation shows you the very presence, the real presence of Jesus in Mary, the impact it had on Elizabeth and on John the Baptist in her womb. And so we should have confidence in the kind of presence, light, and glory we carry as Christians.